Hello everyone, welcome to the latest episode of Movie Crusaders. My name's Sean Wasserkrug, and today we're going to be reviewing the latest Ridley Scott film, The Last Duel. This review is obviously about a week late. I just didn't get to watch it last week, but I finally got to watch it this week. Word of mouth has been really high on this film, so it made me basically go out to theaters and check this one out. First thing that basically hooked me into wanting to see this film was definitely the cast. You got Matt Damon and Ben Affleck together, this time in medieval times, also sporting incredibly bad wigs in this film. You got Adam Driver, which for me, the dude can't miss right now. Everything that Adam Driver does, I think, is just working for him. Whether it be in comedy, whether it be sci-fi, or whether it be serious drama roles, Adam Driver is working. Basically, he just can't miss. Everything he does is fire. Jodie Comer, who's coming off of Killing Eve, and of course earlier this year, one of my favorite films of the year, Free Guy. It's just a really solid cast, and based off of the story that we're getting, it was definitely a very intriguing story. Plus, you got Ridley Scott coming back to this kind of a role, which I love, Gladiator. So seeing him back in this kind of world definitely made me excited to check this film out. Basically, the main aspect of this film, or the main plot of this film, is you follow, for the most part, these technically four main characters. You got Matt Damon, who plays Sir Jean. I'm not going to say their last names because I'm going to butcher the hell out of them. You got Adam Driver, who plays Jacques or Jacques. You got Jodie Comer, who plays Marguerite. And you got Ben Affleck, who plays Paris. And there's basically this kind of feud, this friendly feud between Jacques and Sir Jean, basically up against Prairie's Ben Affleck, and Prairie is basically the king's court. King Charles IV, also played by Alex Lothar. Basically, Ben Affleck kind of runs everything, and he does not like Matt Damon's Sir Jean, so he kind of just keeps screwing him over repeatedly and giving everything to Adam Driver's Jacques or Jacques, however you want to say the word or the name. But Matt Damon marries Marguerite, played by Jodie Comer, and stuff goes from there. But the main drive of the film is that at one point, while Sir Jean is out, basically after fighting like a battle or a war, Jacques or Jacques comes to his castle and basically rapes Marguerite. And the main plot of the story is her accusing Adam Driver's Jacques, and basically because of that, Jean basically challenges him to a duel. But because of the accusations and what's all basically happening, if Matt Damon's Jean loses, then Marguerite will die with him. And if he wins, then they can go live happily ever after, and basically all that kind of stuff. But the film is done in a unique way with the storytelling. Ridley Scott kind of decides to do it a different way. He does it in chapters, basically, and we've seen this kind of story before done on TV and other films, where the first part of the film, you're seeing everything from Matt Damon or Jean's point of view, and then chapter 2 is Adam Driver or Jacques point of view, and then the third chapter is Jodie Comer's Marguerite's point of view, or AKA in terms of the film, The Truth. The problem with this is, just like when you see a TV show where they do like a flashback scene where it's like, oh, this is how he remembers meeting the girl, and and then here's how the other person remembers meeting the girl, and then here's the girl's story of the things, is each scene is done a little bit differently each time. But each story or each chapter is about 30 minutes long, sometimes even longer. So basically, we go through Matt Damon's, Jean's story from beginning to end all the way up to The Last Duel. And then we go back to chapter 2 and we see, Adam Driver's Jacques story. And it's the same story again, just with Adam Driver. And Matt Damon acts a little bit differently because it's from Adam Driver's point of view. And there's a little bit of story there, that by the time we get to Jodie Comer's Marguerite story, and it's once again the same story again, you just don't care anymore. This is 2.5 hours long, and after seeing the story done twice already. By the time we get to the truth, I was just kind of over it. Not that I was over. I'm just like, we've seen some of these scenes now. Not all the scenes, but we've seen some of these scenes now for three straight times in a row. And they're just subtle differences. Like, someone will say something a little bit differently, or maybe they'll have a little bit more of a tone, or one person acts a little bit differently than they were in the other part of the story, or the other person's perception of the story. That it really Scott really makes you need to be really, really invested with these characters and care about their sides of the stories for you to want to see the same thing retold 3 separate times. And for me, by the time we get to the third story, I'm kind of over it. Because Adam Driver's story and Matt Damon's story, they are very, very linear. Obviously, Adam Driver's story allows for Ben Affleck's Prairie to have a lot more screen time, which Ben Affleck's having a ball playing Prairie. He's having so much fun. And he's a lot of fun to watch as Prairie, even with the bad, blonde-haired wig. But obviously, and then Matt Damon's character comes in, he's kind of playing like a whiny bitch compared to him kind of being the courageous hero in his version of the story. That by the time we get to Jodie Comer's part of the story, I just was not a fan of the third part, even if it was technically the truth story, because it does this trope that it's every time we do this like 3 perceptions of the story, it's the same freaking plot every single time. And that is the one thing that really irks me about this film. Now, before I get into that, yes, Ridley Scott, this is a very, very good film. All the acting is great. Matt Damon's great. Adam Driver's fantastic. Jodie Comer's great. Ben Affleck's great. The rest of the cast is decent for their roles. I think Alice Lothar plays King Charles a little too twerpy and kind of weird, but anyway, that's just the way it is. He does a good job doing it. I just wasn't a fan of it. It looks great, and the actual last duel is fantastic. All the fight sequences that we do get in the film look and are acted incredibly great, which it's Ridley Scott. I didn't expect him to make it look like shit. And the effectively last duel between Matt Damon and Adam Driver looks great. It's brutal. It's hard to watch at times, but it is what sells this film. Get all that out of the way. This movie does the same trope that I'm so sick and tired of seeing, where every guy in this world is a villain, is mean, is a dick, is basically a bad guy. I'm so sick and tired of this trope. There are good people in the world, especially guys. Not every guy is a damn villain. And in in Matt Damon's story, his character's, granted, he's telling his side of the story, so on his side, he's a hero, I guess. But, I mean, he seems like a good guy. He's a kind of like a Russell Crowe in Gladiator. He does his job. He doesn't, let himself get pushed around, which rubs Ben Affleck's Prairie the wrong way. And when his wife is taken advantage of, he fights for her, and he tries to play like he's a good guy. Adam Driver, even on his side of the story, he's still wrong in like 90% of his story. So even though he's telling his side, he's still the bad guy in this film. But when you get to Jodie Comer's or Marguerite's story, Matt Damon's basically an abusive asshole of a husband, and there's not a single good man out there. Every man is just a bad guy. Even the women outside of Jodie Comer is all evil. Like Harriet Waller's Nicole, who plays Matt Damon's mom, she's horrendous, and her best friend turns her back on her, and everyone's against her, and everyone's mean to her, and this is supposed to be the truth. So it's incredibly annoying and frustrating, because we see this on TV shows all the time, where the main guy will tell a story, and he makes himself look really, really good. Then the friend will tell the story, and it makes the other guy look stupid and him look good. And then the girl tells a story which is supposed to be the truth, which makes both guys look like idiots and the girl look great. And they do that for comedic purposes, and it's fine, but in this film, it's not for comedic purposes. This is supposed to be the true story, and in this true story, which is told by Marguerite, it's basically every man in this world is evil and mean and bad and everything, and she's the only good person out there. And I hate that story element. I hate that trope. I'm sick of this trope, and it just made me dislike the film. I'm not going to take this film for granted and not say it's a bad film. It's a very well done film. Ridley Scott should be proud of himself. The cast should be proud of themselves. They all do a great job. I hate the way they did this film. I hate the tropes and the idea of doing the 3 separate storylines and making me really not give a crap by the time we get to the duel, except for I just wanted to see a really good fight. Because who do you root for? You root for one person because you won't root for this one person to win because you don't want XYZ to happen if he loses over the other person. But frankly, by the time you get to the end of the film, you don't like anyone in this movie because everyone's a bad guy, according to the truth. And that's the problem. I mean, there's a lot of underlying story that's also not being told. Like, there's this constant shot of Ben Affleck's wife in the film who's constantly always giving him a side eye, like she knows more about what's going on than she's not letting on, but they don't ever really do anything with that. I mean, granted, it's probably because she knows that he cheats on her with a bunch of women. Okay, fine, but constantly, she's always just giving a side eye to him, and they just never go with anything with that. They constantly, to me, tease this element of Matt Damon's character through the film, and you think that's going to lead to something in The Last Duel, and it's never utilized. So, to me, and maybe it's just I was focusing too much on that, but I felt like they kind of were leaving breadcrumbs through the film that this was going to lead to something, and it didn't really go anywhere with it. And it just kind of, it didn't work for me. And I didn't necessarily enjoy the film by the time it ended. When it ended, I was just like, thank God it's over. But that's just me. I can take my personal feelings aside and still look at this film like a reviewer and go, it was incredibly well acted. It looks great. The story, I have my issues with the story, but the story itself is well done. And then the fighting sequence, the actual Last Duel was literally worth the price of admission for what it was. And everyone in it, especially Adam Driver, Ben Affleck, Jodie Comer, Matt Damon, all do a great job. It just didn't work for me overall. I did not enjoy this. This is definitely not a film I would ever go back and rewatch. So, I mean, to me, going to, like, overall thoughts and recommendations, I personally wouldn't recommend it because I don't like that kind of story elements. I don't like the cliche tropes that they did in the film. As an overall film, though, if you want to see an incredibly well done medieval film and, it looks gorgeous, it's acted incredibly well, and the action, when you get the action, is done well, then yeah, check out The Last Duel. You'll probably enjoy it a lot better than I did. It's just not something that I can say that I thoroughly enjoyed or something that I would ever really go back and rewatch ever again. So going to my score, like I said, taking personal issues aside with the film, I'm going to give it a 79% because I see all the good. I just didn't like some of the choices that were made in terms of the script and the writing and basically what they did with the film, but I can see everything else. So 79% for me. Like I said, it's not something I would ever rewatch if given the chance. But I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on the Movie Crusaders. Of course, don't forget to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, we've got Last Night in Soho, which was one of my most anticipated films of 2021 that comes out next week, so there will definitely be a review for that, whether it be just me or whether it be with Brian Michaels as well. And of course, Brian Michaels and I will be back next week for another episode of the Weekend Crusaders, where we talk about 5 movies that come out during that weekend in movie history. Our episode for this week dropped today, as well as my review for Dune, so check out that review as well. And until next time, in case I don't see you guys, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.